Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on whichever part of the world you are tuning in from. Well, I'm very much excited to welcome you to yet another promising edition on the Extra Speed Live. Well, to kickstart the session, let's go through our daily routine by confirming that we are good to go this morning. So if you can see my screen and you can hear my voice loud and clear, please confirm in the comment section by typing hi in the comment section. So I would like to see some feedback, please. Let's confirm that we are good to go. Let's confirm that we are all on the same page here. So I would like to see your comments. If you can see my screen, you can hear my voice very clearly, loud and clear. Please let me know. Type in hi in the comment section. So I'm trying to load up my comment box. I look forward to your feedbacks and let's get this started. All right, so I can see a handful of comments here. 264, thank you very much. 631 8716, thank you. Bobley, thank you very much. Bobley says, can you teach in the market? Well, that is what we are doing here. So I implore you to stay tuned in so you don't miss out on any of the insightful ideas we shall be deliberating on today. 1995, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Good morning, 767. And then I see another one here from 8675277 says he's a beginner and he's asking us to teach him how to trade. Well, just stay tuned in and let's see how well you can grab what we're talking about here. Then 4502, good morning to you too. Glad to have you around with us this morning. Well, I think with this handful of feedbacks, I want to assume that we are all on the same page here, and it's on this note I welcome you all once again to yet another promising edition of the Extra Speed Live. My own name is Sheriff Daramola, and for the next 1 hour I'm going to be your host, where we shall be delving into the financial markets using simple parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical price movement of the financial assets on our watch list. Well, since the beginning of the week, we have been monitoring four major assets, which includes the US All Spot, the USTech100, which is popularly known as the Nasdaq, the GBPUSD, and of course the XAUUSD. And since today is the last trading day of the week, happy Friday to everyone. And we all know that this day comes with some psychological peculiarity, as majority in the market who are taking advantage of a prior leading price direction will be anticipating taking some of their positions off by closing in profit and in anticipation of the weekend, and this will be reflecting on the chart as a reversal setup. So we are going to be taking all this into consideration as we dive into the current market structure. Well, in anticipation of today, the market has been buzzing with anticipation as major currency pairs have settled into familiar territories following Wednesday and Thursday's roller coasters of buys and sell. And of course, the US dollar currently is consolidating, bracing itself for the impact of today's NFP report. After a robust showing in the weekly US jobless data, the stage is set for a potential dollar rally. Let's hope so. And in that regard, let's dive right into the chart. Now, before we dive into the chart here, I didn't forget you, my newcomers in the house. For those who are joining us for the first time, I'm very, very excited to welcome you guys on board. And what we simply do here as technical traders, we come together on a daily basis in anticipation of the New York session, where we come to review our existing positions if we have any, and of course use the information we have on the chart to strategically position ourselves ahead of the New York session. So this normally happens daily, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time. So I encourage you to stay tuned in so that you don't miss out on any of these insightful ideas we shall be deliberating on today, and of course be part of our subsequent editions too as well. As the more time you spend with us here, the better you get in understanding how to use our strategy, and of course eventually be able to use the information you have gathered here to make your own independent trading decisions. So once again, you are highly welcome on board. Now, with that being said here, let's dive right into the business. And as usual, the first thing we normally do every morning when we kickstart our session is to check on the economic calendar. And by now, we all know that these fundamental factors often manifest on the chart in technical patterns and price movement. By monitoring the economic calendar, we can identify potential correlations between key economic releases and specific technical patterns on the chart, hereby giving us valuable information that can make us position ourselves in such a way that we can capitalize on any potential move prior, during, and even after this economic event. So on the economic calendar, we normally focus on high impact events from the economies that affects the assets on our watch list. Well, for this week, we have been monitoring events from both the United States and the United Kingdom. Now, for today, Friday, October 6th, we have a series of impactful events on our watch list, but we are going to be focusing on the high impacted ones, which are the average hourly earnings, which is coming up in about 2 hours 30 minutes from now. Now, for those who don't know what the averagely hourly earnings is, well, this is an index released by the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it is a significant indicator of labor cost inflation and of the tightness of the labor markets. The Federal Reserve Board always pays close attention to this index in setting interest rates decisions. So a high reading here is always considered as positive for the US dollar. And if we look at what the previous data came in, especially for the month for the month of August, we saw it came in at 0.2%. Now we have a general consensus projecting 0.3% for the month of September. So it's a sign that majority are expecting an expansion in that sector. So we are going to be looking forward to what the actual data is going to be like. Then simultaneously, we have the non-farm payroll data, which is also coming up at that same time. This is one impactful event that everyone in the market is looking forward to. And for those who don't know what this is, well, the non-farm payroll data is released also by the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it presents the number of new jobs created during the previous month in all non-agricultural businesses. Now, on this one too, a high reading is considered as bullish or positive for the US dollar, while low reading is seen as negative for the US dollar. Now, let's just look at what the readings were saying for the previous month. So if you look at what happened in the month of August, we had a growth of 187,000, and consensus are projecting for this month and not a growth of 170,000, which is a little bit lesser than the figures we had during the previous month. And as a result of this, there is a high expectation of a little contraction in that sector. So we're also going to be looking forward to what the actual data is going to be like on this one too. So with the informations we have here on the economic calendar, as technical traders, what we are going to be doing right now is to dive right into the current market structure to look at things from a technical standpoint. And of course, we want to be sniffing through the structures to look out for patterns and conditions that will help us to strategically position ourselves ahead of this event. And of course, we know that even the anticipation of this event alone has a tendency of influencing the market sentiment, which will reflect on the chart as price action. Now, talking about price action, the first asset we are going to be looking at today is going to be the US All Spot as usual. Now, on the US All Spot so far this week, we have been doing pretty well on this asset, as currently we have a minimum of 3 positions running with roughly over 1,000 pips in profit across both. And for those who had been part of this profitable journey, well done to you for being on standby to have capitalized and in fact added more positions along the line as we continue to enjoy that bearish momentum. And of course, this bearish momentum has a lot of fundamental reasons behind them. As you will see, even lately, at least in the last 36 hours, we have witnessed a continuous decline in oil prices, which can be attributed to the market's disappointment regarding the lack of significant production cuts at the recent OPEC Plus meeting, which ended yesterday. So our multiple entries have yielded a profit of approximately 1,000 pips, and our current sell position still remains very intact. So before we go into the details of what our expectations is going to be like for today, I would love that we take a quick review of how the week started for us. This could be served as an educational guide in understanding how to use price action to identify our trading decision, to make our trading decisions, of course. Now, at the beginning of the week, this is what we saw here in this market. We had our key level, which was situated around the $90 area. And in fact, during the first 10 to 12 hours of the week, we saw our price was oscillating right around our key level. And in fact, we have price confined within the $90.40 level and the $89.80 area to give us an insight into the level of indecision at the beginning of the week. And of course, you know how we do it in this community. When price action falls into this kind of range, revealing the uncertainty in the market, we have no other choice than to exercise patience, waiting for either the breakout of the resistant line to give us an opportunity to buy, or the breakdown of the support line of that range to give us an opportunity to sell. Now, prior to the live session, I told us all that I already had the buy position running after the breakout of that resistant line, as we saw price moved about 50 pips in profit before the bearish momentum began. And during the live session, we were right below the $90.40 level, where I was saying that if price goes on to break out again, we will get ready to buy. However, the contrary was what happened here. Price did break down the support line at the $89.80 level, a level which shared a confluence with that ascending trend line we identified on the daily time frame. Now, with the breakdown retest of the structure, it was all we needed to be part of that bearish move, and this of course triggered our first sell position for the week. Then we kept on riding that move all the way to the downside, and remember, we were able to add one more position to our existing trade right here on Wednesday, as we took advantage of the breakdown of the $87 area. Then we continue to add more position again. Remember, we talked about this during the live session yesterday, where we also looked forward to another breakdown of the $83.10 level to maximize the potential of the bearish move. So once again, for those who are taking advantage of these opportunities, well done and kudos to you for being on standby to capitalize on this move. Now, with the situation we have right now, what is going to be the next thing to do? Of course, for those who have been with us for a while now, the next thing we do whenever price action had moved significantly well in our favor is to move our stop losses and secure the current position against any sudden pullback that might happen right now. Now, from the way things are going at this juncture, I will just suggest that anywhere above the $82.10 area and the $83.10 level seems most appropriate to move all stop losses to. Now, while we are planning to move our stop losses, it is important that we take note that enough room is very appropriate to allow price action to breathe around this area with the hopes that it will continue to the downside. Now, with a well-secured position at this juncture, what is going to be our next line of action for today? Well, looking at the current structure on the 1 hour time frame, it is quite obvious that sellers are still very, very strong in this market. But before we go into the details of what we are going to be looking out for, let's look at the 4 hours time frame quickly. Let's refresh our memories on what we saw at the beginning of the week and also give us an holistic perspective into what is really going on in this market. Now, scaling up into the 4 hours time frame, this is what we saw at the beginning of the week. So I would like to zoom things in a little bit so we can see things considering the nature of price action since the month of June. Now, if you look at this structure closely, you will see price has been on a strong bullish momentum since the month of June. And to further emphasize the strength of the buyers, here we had a trend line marked out after connecting the series of higher lows. Now, we saw what happened here during the Wednesday trading session as price action did finally broke down that ascending trend line for the first time in about 2 months. 3 months, I think. The first time price will breaking down that structure. Now, from a technical standpoint, whenever price action breaks down a major trend line like this, we expect that some point in time price is likely going to come back, retest the structure in anticipation of a downtrend scenario. Now, with the way things are going right now, the right question we want to be asking is, how far will this bearish momentum go before the retracement to retest the structure that was broken will happen? Now, with the information we have gathered here on the 1 hour time frame, noting the breakdown of the ascending trend line, let's see if there are chances that buyers could come in and retrace back into structure before probably another downtrend continuation happens, or we could have a break above the trend line to incite an uptrend move. Now, scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, let's look at what is really going on around this area. Now, before I talk about the technical aspect here, let's talk about the psychological expectation considering today being the last trading day of the week, and secondly, the anticipation of the NFP data. Now, on last trading days of the week like this, key players in the market who are taking advantage of a particular direction of price action has a tendency of closing in some of their position rounding off ahead of the weekend. And whenever they start taking in some of their positions, we begin to see the reflection of this activity on the chart as a reversal setup where price action is seen moving in the opposite direction of the prior leading price action. Now, look at what has been going on here in the last 24 hours. Now, since yesterday, we have seen how it had become difficult for sellers to break through this level here at the $81.30 level. Now, every attempt by the sellers to break through the structure has been met with strong resistance from the buyers, and this has lasted about 24 hours. And because of this fit here, we need to be very, very careful before making any informed decisions. Now, if we are going to continue selling the US All Spot today, we would need price to significantly break down that $81.30 level, that is the support line there, retest of structure for confirmations before we jump into that position. Then there's one more thing I would like to share with you here. And from a technical standpoint, you will see that price action appear to have transitioned into what looks like a downtrend continuation pattern in the form of a descending triangle. Now, let me highlight the structure here so you can see things from my own perspective. Now look at the impulsive move that led into this point. Look at the support line here at the $81.30 area, and look at this descending trend line here. So we have what looks like a descending channel, a descending triangle, where it is expected that price is likely going to be breaking down, retesting the $81.30 level to inside the downtrend move. Now, there are two ways to which we can capitalize on this bearish momentum depending on how you've been with us in this community since the beginning of the week. Now, the first one is for those who have been profitable, who have been part of this profitable journey. That is, if you had been selling with us since the beginning of the week, then you must be in tremendous profit at this point in time, which simply means that you can afford to leverage on some of your profits you have made so far this week to test waters right below the $81.30 zone. Now, in that regard, you can afford to have your sell stop order below the structure to test waters around that area. And in fact, if it doesn't work and if it fails, then we will have no problem, as we are only risking some of the profit we had made so far this week. However, if you are joining us for the first time and this is your first time taking a sell position with us, then I will encourage you to hold on for confirmations to happen before you jump into a position, as you do not have anything to leverage on at this point in time. And to look out for confirmation, what is it that you want to be looking out for on this chart? Well, the first thing we want to be looking out for here is a breakdown of the support line at the $81.30 level to happen first of all. Then we scale down into our lower time frame. It could be the 5, 10 or 15 minutes time frame to look out for confirmations which gives us signs that buyers are finding it difficult to break out of that descending trend line. And this happens, it will reflect on the chart as continued selling pressure around this area. Then we can join the downtrend scenario. So this is how we are going to be managing a downtrend continuation on this one. However, in as much as we're looking out for selling opportunities in this market, you know how we do it in this community. We want to keep all our options as open as possible. Now, in that regard, we want to consider the potentials of the buyers too. Remember, today is the last trading day of the week, and majority in the market are likely going to be closing in some of their positions, which would reflect in price moving in the opposite direction of the prior leading price action. And if a bullish opportunity is likely going to be coming in here, what do we want to see on the chart that will make us neglect the idea of selling and hold on to the idea of buying this asset? Now, this is where the importance of this descending trend line comes in. Now, this morning, while I was trying to decipher what is likely going to be happening this morning, I spotted these lower highs here, and immediately after connecting the lower highs, we have this beautiful descending trend line to work with. Now, this trend line here is going to be playing a major role in determining the direction of price action today. Now, as long as price remains below this descending trend line, we shall feel comfortable selling the US All Spot. However, if at any point in time price action breaks out of that descending trend line to the upside, then at this point we are likely going to be seeing a counter trend opportunity. Now, what is it that we want to look out for to buy here? Remember, we are not getting too excited. Neither are we going to be having a buy stop order above the trend line, but instead wait for confirmations to happen before we jump into that position. And the confirmation will look like a breakout first of all, price retesting the trend line that was broken, where the appearance of continued buy pressure will be all we need to join that uptrend move. And if this happens, we want to continue buying at the breakout of this level at the $83.10 area. Now, if price continues to climb up into structures, now here comes this descending trend line we spotted at the beginning of the week, which has been supporting this bearish momentum since last week, Wednesday. Now, this trend line here has played a major role in pushing price to the downside. Now, if price comes into this trend line today, we want to exercise patience and wait to see how the market participant will be reacting to this confluence here. Now, what is it that we are going to be looking out for? If price action continue to reject this level, that is continued selling pressure here, where buyers are finding it difficult to break out of the trend line, then we'll have no other choice than to get ready to join the downtrend continuation. However, if it so happens that the breakout of that trend line comes in, then it will be a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate the bullish attempt, and this will be the first time price will be breaking out of that descending trend line in the last 6, 7, 8 days now. And if this happens, a retest of structure will confirm more buying opportunities in this market. So this is how we are going to be managing our positions on the US All Spot today. Now remember that if we are buying above this descending trend line, please note that this is going to be considered as a counter trend opportunity. Hence, you want to be on standby to move your stop losses accordingly as price action moves in our favor. So these are my views here on the US All Spot for today. I don't know if you have any questions. If you have any, feel free to drop them in the comment section, and trust me, I am here and willing to be of help in that regard. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever, and you can as well use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions. All right. I see your comments. Ezal Bid Adela, good morning to you. Glad to have you around. 82107028, good morning to you. 48354502, good morning to you too. Glad to have you around with us this morning. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page here. And in that regard, I will be moving right into the next financial asset on our watch list for today. So the next asset on our watch list for today is the USTech100, and in fact we have not been doing bad at all on this asset since the beginning of the week, as we've witnessed some roller coasters of buys and sells throughout the course of the week, and in fact and all instances, price had moved significantly well as soon as it signals either the buy or sell position, which makes us profitable on this asset so far this week. Now, before we go into the details here, let's run through what has really been going on in this market since the beginning of this week. Now, at the beginning of this week, it was more of a consolidation phase. As you will see, the price was confined within the 14,860 and the 14,785 level, which emphasized the level of uncertainty at the beginning of the week. But within this uncertainty, there is this tendencies that sellers were gaining the momentum within that range, as you will see that most of the time sellers were breaking down the support line here than breaking out the resistance by the buyers. As you will see here, though we had attempt where breakout really happened, but it didn't last long as price never closed above that structure. Now, in that regard, it was more clear that price will be dropping to the downside in those case scenarios. So we saw some selling attempts here. We saw one right here before the major one happened on Tuesday's trading session. Now, besides this flat channel we identified here, we also added this ascending trend line as one of the yardstick we will be using to guide our trading decision for this week. And one of the things we agreed on Monday is that as long as price remains above the ascending trend line, we shall look out for buying opportunities above the 14,860 level. But if the trend line is breached to the downside, then we agreed that we are going to be looking out for selling opportunities. And one interesting thing about that ascending trend line here is the fact that it also shares a beautiful confluence with the support line of that flat channel. Now, we saw what happened here on Tuesday. Price did break down both the support line and the ascending trend line to trigger a bearish momentum. And in fact, if you had missed out on that first breakdown, the market was kind enough as it came back to retest structure to signal another opportunity to join that decline to the downside. And in fact, you took advantage of that opportunity. We also did maximize the potential of that bearish move by adding more positions at the breakdown of the 14,680 as you see here. Then we also added one more at the breakdown of this key level for the week at the 14,550 to maximize this bearish move to the downside. So it was quite an interesting first half of the week as we sold the USTech100. However, during our Wednesday's trading session, we begin to notice that sellers were finding it difficult to break through the 14,450, which happens to be the lowest point price action has been for this week. Then to guide our trading decisions, we were able to spot this descending trend line after connecting the series of lower highs here. Now, one of the things we said here is that as long as price remains below the descending trend line, we remain bearish in this market. But if at any point in time a breakout of this trend line happens, we would have no other choice than to join an uptrend move. And interesting enough, the trend line here also shares a confluence with the week's key level at the 14,550 area. And of course, we saw the breakout retest of the structure in our lower time frame, which triggered our first buy position for the week. And in fact, since then, we have been riding this momentum all the way to the upside. And for those who took advantage of this one too, well done to you for being on standby, capitalizing on this move. Now, for those who still have a buy position running at this point in time, well, it is high time you move to your stop losses and secure this current position as we gradually approach the NFP data session coming up in about 2 hours from now. Now, the most appropriate area I will be suggesting based on this current structure to move all our stop losses to is the 14,680 zone. So let's move our stop loss to anywhere around this area. And while we are trying to secure this position, let's ensure that we give enough room for price action to breathe. Now, with a well-secured position at this juncture, what is going to be our next line of action based on this 1 hour time frame? Now, with the way things are going right now, it appears that buyers are gradually gaining momentum. And remember, we had our key level, which is situated at the 14,550, which happens to be our key level for this week. And you know how we use our key level in this community. As long as price remains above our key level, we want to continue to look out for buying opportunity. The only condition that will make us sell the USTech100 today is for price to break down that key level to the downside. And if this does not happen, we are going to maintain a bullish bias. And for the fact that price remains above this key level, we continue to expect more buying opportunity here. Now, to further buttress this bullish momentum here, let's look at what has been going on since Wednesday's trading session. Now, since Wednesday, the lowest point of price action was at the 14,450. Then the next low is right here. As you will see, sellers have found it difficult to find a lower low. And for the fact that we have a higher low on this structure, it's a sign that buyers are gradually gaining momentum behind the scenes. And whenever we notice higher low like this, the next thing we do to guide our trading decision is to connect the series of higher lows here to give us a trend line to work with for today. Now we have a beautiful trend line right now. I would like to give this a green color instead. Then this trend line here is simply going to be our yardstick for trading decisions today. Now, as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our buy position. And the only condition that will make us change our bias from bullish is if this trend line is broken to the downside. Now, the fact that price still remains above that ascending trend line for me is a good signal to continue to look out for buying opportunities here. Now, there is one thing here that I also want to call our attention to, which is the 14,850, which lines up with the range where price started this week. Now, look at the range where price started this week. We have between the 14,860 and the 14,785. This was where the sell pressure began at the beginning of the week here, as we saw how this area became a strong barrier for buyers. As you see, buyers found it difficult to break out of the structure at the beginning of the week. So we are gradually approaching a crucial zone where sellers, I will call it a seller's territory at this point in time. See how this selling pressure here has been negating all attempt by the buyers to break out of this level. Now, if I am going to be joining this uptrend continuation or adding more position to my existing trade, I would like to see price take out all the sell positions within the zone by breaking out of this structure today. And in fact, if we do have a breakout of this structure today, we are going to feel comfortable buying this asset. Now, there are two ways to which you can capitalize on this. If you are already part of this profitable journey so far this week, then you can afford to leverage on some of the profit we had made on the USTech100 by placing a buy stop order above the 14,850. Now, if this is your first time with us, and this is, let's say you're coming in from a clean slate, and this is your first time joining a trading decision with us on the Extreme Speed Live, then I will be advising you to exercise patience, wait for the breakout to happen first of all, and then a retest of structure will confirm or retest of the 14,850 or price dropping into that ascending trend line where the appearance of buy pressure around or above the 14,850 will be all we need to be part of this uptrend continuation. So this is how we are going to be managing a bullish opportunity today. For those who have a buy position running, I've said earlier, move all your stop losses, secure the current position while we wait for the breakout of the seller's territory to give us more opportunity to join the uptrend move. So on the USTech100 today, I'm holding on to a bullish bias. However, if price action does break down this ascending trend line at any point in time, then we want to start considering selling. Now remember that since the beginning of this week, in fact, if we go to as far back as last week Friday, you will see how the zone has maintained selling pressure in this market. Now, if the sellers persist around this area and buyers find it difficult to break through this zone, then there are chances that price will be breaking down this ascending trend line to incite a sell-off in this market. Now, a breakdown retest of both the ascending trend line and the 14,785 will be welcoming selling opportunities here. Now, if we sell here and price continues to drop, then we want to be positioning ourselves again below the 14,550 to add more sell position to our existing trade. So this is what we are looking at today. I'm holding on to a bullish bias here, but if price breaks down that trend line, then we'll have no other choice than to be part of the bearish move. So these are my views. If you have any questions as regards to my explanations, or you need me to do further clarification in an aspect, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions, while you also use that time to mark out the trend lines and levels that you will be using as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. All right. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page and my explanations were quite comprehensive enough for us to relate with. And it's on this note I will be moving on to the next financial asset on our watch list for today's trading session. So the next asset on our watch list for today is the GBPUSD. What another phenomenal position we have here on this asset. This week so far we've had sell positions, we've also had buy positions, which of course have done pretty well so far this week. Now on the GBPUSD we have been witnessing some bullish momentums in the last 24-48 hours now. Amidst economic uncertainties in the UK, the pound sterling is actively seeking to increase its gains against the US dollar. Well, market sentiment has remained positive over the past 48 hours, contributing to an upward trend that has already resulted in over 200 pips here, or a minimum of 100 pips in profit, depending on where you took advantage of this buy position we currently enjoying in the last 24 to 48 hours now. This has given buyers a significant advantage ahead of the release of the NFP data today. So while we continue to monitor the market from potential trading opportunity, it is advisable that you move all your stop losses at this point in time and secure the current buy position at this point. Now, before we go into the details on what we are going to be looking at today, I will be reviewing how the week started for us here so that we can all be on the same page and of course have a background knowledge of how we got to the point we are right now. Now, zooming to the beginning of the week, this is what we saw here on the 1 hour time frame. So at the beginning of the week, we saw here our price was initially confined between the 1.22080 level and the 1.21760 area to emphasize the uncertainty in this market at the beginning of this week. Now, with this kind of scenario, you know how we do it in this community. When price goes into an uncertainty like this, transition into a flat range, we want to exercise patience, waiting for either the breakdown or breakout of that range to give us an opportunity to trade. And interesting enough, we saw price break down that support line here to trigger our first sell position. And during our live session on Monday, I told us all that for those who had missed out on the breakdown of the 1.21760, that we had two options to capitalize on this downtrend, and one of which is price coming back to retest the structure before joining the bearish move, which never happened. And the second scenario I made mention was that we will be capitalizing on the breakdown retest of the 1.212 to join the downtrend scenario. And this was exactly what happened as we saw price drop significantly to the downside. Now, during the Tuesday and Wednesday trading session, we saw something intriguing happen in this market. We saw our price was confined within a range for about 24 to 36 hours. That is between the 1.21 and the 1.20600 area to emphasize the level of a decision at that point. Now, one of the things we said here on Wednesday's trading session is that the inability of price to break through the support line here at the 1.2060 level is a sign that buyers are likely building up some momentum behind the scenes, and the chances that a breakout of this descending trend line that was supporting our bearish momentum since the beginning of the week is likely going to be broken to the upside. And with this observation in mind, we decided to position ourselves just exactly above the 1.2100 area, where the breakout of this level will also have broken out of that descending trend line to emphasize the strength of the buyers here. And this was exactly what happens in the last 48 hours. Now, we have been buying this asset. Now, this momentum has continued, giving us more opportunity to maximize this move as we position ourselves above the 1.21350 and the 1.218 to maximize this move. So currently, you should be having a minimum of 2 positions and a maximum of 3 positions running in profit on the GBPUSD. Now, at this point in time, the next thing you want to be doing now is to ensure that you secure all the current buy positions right now by moving your stop losses accordingly. Remember, when price moves significantly, we definitely want to be moving our stop losses, and I will be suggesting that anywhere around or below the 1.218 area seems most appropriate to lock in some profits. Now, you know what we do here. While we're securing our positions, we want to ensure that we give enough room just in case there could be some volatility before the uptrend continuation happens. Now, remember that we're looking forward to some major event from the US economic docket today, the average hourly earnings, and of course the NFP data, which is coming up in about an hour, 30 minutes from now. So move your stop loss accordingly. Let's secure this position and let's see how the market will play out from this area. Now, with a well-secured position at this juncture, what is going to be our next line of action for today? Are we going to continue buying the GBPUSD, or are there chances that sellers could come in at any point in time? Now, before we go into the details of how to position ourselves for today's trading session, I would like us to review the 4 hours time frame so we can have an holistic perspective into what is going on in this market. Now, on the 4 hours time frame, I would like to refresh our memories on what we saw here at the beginning of the week. In fact, we had a very simple setup evolved on the 4 hours time frame. Now, after taking into consideration the nature of price action throughout the month of September, we saw that sellers were really dictating the pace, hereby transitioning into a descending channel you will see here. Now, after connecting the series of lower highs, we had the resistance line of that descending channel. Then we also connected the series of lower lows to give us the support line of that descending channel. Now, something interesting happened a couple of I think yesterday, we saw something happen yesterday. We saw our price did break out of the resistance line of that descending channel for the first time in the last 5 weeks. Now, when price breaks out of the resistance line of a descending channel, it's a sign that that channel is no longer respected, and the buy pressure has increased so much that the resistance line of that descending channel do not have the capacity to continue to negate the bullish attempt. And with this scenario here, I'm of the opinion that buyers are building up momentum, and it makes a lot of sense that we continue to look out for buying opportunity irrespective of the anticipation of the NFP data today. Now, with this information we've gathered here on the 4 hours time frame, I would like us to scale back down into the 1 hour time frame. Right now, when we go down into the 1 hour time frame, my explanation will be a little bit much more clearer. Now, scaling back down into the 1 hour time frame, after the breakout of that resistance line, let's continue to look out for buying opportunities. Now, to help us guide our trading decisions for today, I was able to identify a trend line which we shall be using to guide our trading decisions. And that is this ascending trend line here. If you look at what has been going on since Tuesday's trading session, you will see that we have higher lows in this market, which reveals the potentials of the buyers. And after connecting the series of higher lows, we have this beautiful ascending trend line to work with. In fact, we have a couple of them here. I have the major one right here. And as long as price remains above these trend lines, we shall feel comfortable buying the GBPUSD, and of course look out for more opportunities here. Now, with the way things are going right now, price is back into that range where it started this week, where we saw selling pressure resume. Remember, this is the range right here between the 1.22080 and the 1.2176, where we saw the breakdown of the support line here that incited that bearish move. Now we are back into that territory, which I will consider as a seller's territory at this point. Anything could still happen here, but even if sellers come in, I want to advise us to remain patient. Don't let us get too anxious, as we still have price still remain above that ascending trend line. So we could have a situation where selling pressure could come in, price comes back into any of these trend lines here, where the appearance of buy pressure here still has a potential of moving price to the upside. So let's continue to maintain the bullish momentum here. Now, this morning I identified this new level at the 1.22050 area to add more position to my existing trade, and in fact I have a position triggered already. Now, if you had missed out on that opportunity, it's okay. When price breaks out of a structure like this, we still expect it to come back, retest to give us more opportunities to join the uptrend move. However, if price breaks down, don't let us panic at all, as we still have those ascending trend line in place around this area, which could still incite the uptrend move. So it's still looking very, very bullish in this particular market right now. However, in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunities here, we cannot ignore the potentials of sellers. Remember, throughout the course of last month, it has been more of selling the GBPUSD, and in fact, sellers could still come in anytime, negating all this buy pressure. Now, what is it that we want to see here that will make us consider selling? Well, personally, and based on this current structure here, I would rather want to see price take out all the ascending trend lines here, where the retest of structure will be confirming a bearish momentum to the downside. So you will see how this ascending trend line we have here is going to be playing a major role in determining where the direction of price action will be going today. So I encourage you to mark out this trend line most importantly, and the 1.218 and the 1.22050 level as a yardstick to guide our trading decisions for today's session. So these are my views here on the GBPUSD for today. So I encourage you to mark out these levels, and if you have any questions whatsoever as regards to this current setup, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds as always to see if there are any questions, while you also use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So I see a couple of comments here. I see a comment, Belly. Good morning to you. Glad to have you around. 7559701. Good morning to you too. I see 9650907 says he's new here with us and does not understand what we are talking about. It's okay. First of all, I'm very excited to have you here with us this morning. Glad to have you around with us. And what we simply do here as technical traders, we are technical traders. We gather here on a daily basis in anticipation of the New York session, where we come to review our trading positions. If we have any existing position, we come here to review them, manage the existing position, while we also use the information we gather on the chart to position ourselves strategically ahead of the New York session. So all we are doing here is to look out for trading opportunities that we can take advantage of. So I encourage you to stay tuned in and be part of the session till the end, so you don't miss out on any of these insightful ideas we'll be talking about, and be part of the subsequent editions, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how our strategy works, and eventually be able to use these informations to make your own independent trading decisions. I hope you now understand what we do here. 9070. Please let me know in the comment section if you do. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. So in the absence of no questions, okay, I see your comment 9153. Good morning to you. Glad to have you around with us. So in the absence of no questions, permit me to move right into the last asset for today. I'm already out of time, and I would like us to treat this my favorite asset before we draw the curtain for today. So the next asset on our watch list for today is my favorite, and that is the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. And on the gold spot here, we sold at the beginning of the week. Actually, we were able to scoop in about approximately 200 pips after having multiple entries on this asset. Then when price dropped into this range in the last 4 days now, I think, we have seen price confined within the $1,829 and the $1,817 area to emphasize the level of indecision in this market. Now, a couple of days ago, we had a buy position which lasted about 48 hours in this market before we were taken out of that position in a loss yesterday, and it's okay, we will make our profit back on this one. Now let's look at things from a technical standpoint and what is really going on from the psychological perspective here. Now, looking at the structure here, like I said earlier, we can see that price has been confined within this range since the last 96 hours or so, further emphasizing the level of indecision. And one thing hold on a second. All right, sorry for the breaking transmission here. So like I was saying here, after being taken out from our buy position in a loss yesterday, the market's current conditions still remains uncertain as we await the release of the NFP data today. Trading activity, like I said earlier, has remained confined within the 1,829 and the $1,817 area, indicating that the major players have likely stepped aside and are waiting for further indications before taking any actions. The upcoming NFP data will provide valuable insight into whether the labor market is still tight, particularly in light of the strong JOLTS report and softer private payroll data. These factors may influence the Fed's decisions to raise interest rates this month. In the meantime, we must exercise patience and wait for signals such as a breakout or breakdown of this range, which could present potential trading opportunities. And for those of us who have been part of this community for a while now, you know how we do it whenever price action falls into such a range like this. We have no other choice than to exercise patience, waiting for a signal to come, which is likely going to come in the form of a breakout retest of the resistance line for buying opportunities, or the breakdown retest of the support line for selling opportunities. Now, besides these expectations here, there is one thing there's one pattern or structure I was able to spot here, and that is a descending triangle, which from a technical standpoint is considered to be a downtrend continuation pattern. Now, let me give you a visual representation of what I'm saying so that you can have a better perspective into this. Now, following the impulsive move we witnessed in the last couple of weeks here, we saw how we had a support line around the 1817 where sellers have struggled to break through that area. Now we have this descending trend line here, as you will see, giving us that descending channel right now. And from a technical standpoint, we expect that price will be breaking down the support line, retest of structure to incite the downtrend continuation. So this one looks more likely to happen today. So I'm of the opinion that sellers might likely be taking over this market. But before we can consider selling here, I would like to see price action take out the support line at the 1817. As you will see, this area has been a strong buying niche as sellers have struggled at any time price comes within this area. So you can see what has been going on. Though yesterday we saw the breakdown happened, but we can see that sellers were unable to settle below that area, which is a sign that buyers are gradually gaining momentum. So if I want to consider selling the XAUUSD at all today, then I will need price to take out all the buy positions along the 1817 zone, retest that structure before I can consider selling the XAUUSD today. So let's keep this in mind. The $1,817 level, the breakdown of this level will be playing a major role in revealing selling potentials in this market today. However, in as much as we're looking out for bearish momentum, it is, you know how we do it in this community, it makes quite a lot of sense that we also consider the potentials of buyers too. Now, one of the reasons why we will want to consider buying potential here is considering today being the last trading day of the week, which is always peculiar with profit-taking activities, as major players in the market will be rounding off on their position, closing their positions ahead of the weekend. And this normally reflects on the chart as price moving in the opposite direction of the prior leading price action. And in this case scenario, the continued buy pressure here around the 1817 level, if it persists, then there are chances that price will likely be breaking out of this descending trend line to incite an uptrend move. Now, if I want to consider buying the XAUUSD today, I would want to see price take out this descending trend line, which interestingly shares a beautiful confluence with that 1825 level. Now, for me to consider buying here, I want to see a breakout of the structure. So if a breakout happened, remember we need some confirmations here, considering the fact that we are within a long-term bearish momentum in this market. So to give a visual representation here, this is what we want to, hold on a second, this is what we want to look out for. We want to see price take out both the descending trend line, the 1825, then we scale down into our lower time frame like the 5, 10 or 15 minutes time frame to look out for confirmations where we want to see signs that sellers are finding it difficult to drop and stay below that descending trend line. And this of course would reflect on the chart as continued buy pressure at the retest of structure. Then we can join the uptrend move, and if price continues to climb up, breaking out of the resistance line of that range, and then at this point I want to feel very, very comfortable in a buy positions. Then we also have multiple levels we can use to maximize this move, like the $1,839.50 level, where the breakout retest of that structure we'll be welcoming more buying opportunities. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. It's a very simple setup we have here. So our center of focus for today is basically between the 1825 level and the 1817 area, where depending on where the breakout or breakdown happens will determine or reveal the direction where price is likely going to close for this week. So let's mark these levels out. So we're looking for selling opportunities below the 1817, and we're looking out for buying opportunities above the 1825 area. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD today, and I'm hoping that we be patient enough to allow our structures to mature before we jump into any positions today. So if you have any questions whatsoever, I would really appreciate you drop them in the comment section, as I will take the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any. You can also use that time to mark out this structure on your chart so that you'll be able to use them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions today. So I see your comment here, 9153. Thank you for your feedbacks. You said here that you will request that we start to step by step. I understand what you're trying to say there. But one thing I would like to tell you here, that it appears this is your first time with us, right? And because it's your first time, you might find it difficult to relate with what we are discussing here. So I will advise you to be part of our first edition of the week. So normally at the beginning of the week, we normally have a handful of assets we look at, and where we do a top-down analysis of what we are looking at for the week. So we normally go to as far as the daily time frame, 4 hours time frame, before we dive into the 1 hour time frame to make a decision for the week. So I encourage you to be part of our edition on Monday, and trust me, by the time you end that session, you will find it very empirical enough for you to understand what we are talking about here. So I look forward to seeing you in our session on Monday. That is 492-59153. So I hope I made myself clear there. Please let me know in the comment section if you had further inquiries or further suggestions. Thank you very much. All right. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page here. It has been a wonderful moment with you guys today. I enjoyed every bit of today's session, and I really appreciate all your feedbacks in the comment section, your engagements, and the energy so far, which has really been very, very amazing. For those who are joining us for the first time, I do hope you are able to gain 1 or 2 things from what we discussed here today. And in fact, I encourage you to be part of our subsequent editions, as the more time you spend with us here, the better you get to understand how the strategy works and eventually be able to use the information you gather here to make your own independent trading decisions. So today we were able to attend to 4 major assets which we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week, and this includes the USTech100, popularly known as the NASDAQ. We also attended to the USOILSPOT. We also treated the GBPUSD and of course the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot, and all of which we were able to identify simple setups using simple parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and chart patterns to strategically position ourselves ahead of today's NFP data and of course ahead of today's New York session. So I encourage us all to exercise patience. Don't allow impulsive decisions. Let's allow our structures to mature before we jump into any positions. I see your comment, Magan. My good morning to you. Glad to have you around today. And on this note, I would like to wish us all the best of luck today. I'm very confident that with the simulations we had today, we will be able to position ourselves and be on standby to capitalize on any potential move the market presents to us today. On this note, I wish us all the best of luck, and I look forward to seeing you same time on Monday, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, as we come here again to start the new week on a fresh new look and get the pairs and instruments you want us to look at for next week on standby so we can look at them together. Do have a wonderful day, everyone. Do have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye bye.